Hello and welcome back to the second part of my model car building episode. In this episode I will go through the whole painting process of this model car as well as some of the materials I will be using. So firstly, I will be using this really fine white primer to thoroughly prime this body. Now, I know this is a very kind of simple setup. It's just a cardboard box shoved inside my truck, and I have this body glued onto this old spray paint bottle. But hey, it's simple and it totally works. I can use it as a very stable stand to hold the car body while I spray painted it. So I'm basically using all lacquer paint, and what you are seeing here is a black appliance lacquer paint I picked up from Home Depot, and as you can see it's really shiny. It dries to a really hard high gloss finish, which is what you want. Now, lacquer paint is relatively easy to use, it's very forgiving, it goes on very thin, and also it will not corrode between each layers, unless you're plastic. It's actually, really poor quality, which does show up on this model because it's a very cheap model kit, and the plastic, reacts to the solvent of the paint. Here, as you can see, I've glued these smaller body panels like the front hood, the front and rear bumpers onto a piece of duct tape from the backside, so that I can just go for it and paint it thoroughly up front. It's a very simple and easy trick to do. Now, with spray painting, you want to basically just mist on like light layers first, and then give like a thorough thick wet layer for the end. And as you can see, it's super easy, but definitely check out how to properly use spray paint before you spray paint anything. And now, as you can see, the first layers of the black lacquer have dried, and as you can see, there are some corrosions happening on the car body, but overall it turned out pretty great. Now, this is just because the styrene plastic they used to make this model is actually not very good quality. So when you spray a lot of lacquer on it, the solvent of the lacquer tend to cause the surface to wrinkle. So what you want to do now is to actually thoroughly inspect your model to see, is the paint thoroughly covered everything, or do you need to recoat? Now, to smooth out the painted surfaces and get rid of the imperfections, I will be using this 1200 grit wet sanding paper to just give a thorough sanding of all the body panel pieces, especially the hood. As you can see, it's really rough, so cut a small strip of your sandpaper, wear gloves, dip it thoroughly in water, and just sand it without too much force. You want to gently sand it with some pressure, and you always want water on it because water is gonna lubricate it and it's gonna wash away all the removed materials. So this is the best way to do it. Now, you want to be a little careful. You don't want to sand it too much to the point you sand sort of black color. It's actually okay here because I will basically sand it smooth first and then apply more coats of the black paint on it, so that this layer would basically become smooth, and then all the other paint layers going on top will also be smooth. This is also a really good opportunity to inspect the body to see, if there's any imperfections that requires major touch-up. Usually, when you spray paint these, you want to paint some of the hard-to-paint areas first, and then you paint the easy-to-paint area, so that you are not basically piling up paint in areas that that doesn't require too much. And as you can see, it's now sanded. There are some parts that's showing up, to be kind of unflat and imperfect, but don't worry, we will be going through this body multiple times with multiple other layers of paint. The one that's gonna be next will be another layer of the thick black lacquer paint, and on top of that I will be using a metallic black car paint to give it a realistic reflection, like the shine you see on an actual car. And as you can see, here's the difference after the sanded body receives another thick layers of lacquer paint. You know, the old one is very rough, and this newly painted one, as you can see, is very smooth, it's very shiny. There are still some imperfections, but it's okay. It's just a model kit you build for fun, so don't like stress yourself too much. Painting is its own kind of a hell, I guess you can say. So just, you know, have fun. Don't don't like put yourself through some really hard time. Alright, so here, as you can see, this shiny charcoal black metallic paint goes on really well because this is an actual touch-up paint spray I picked up from AutoZone. So this is actually the color of my truck, and I just, you know, brought it to like spray some of the parts on my own truck. But I just found out to be, you know, really nice on this car too. Now for all the other big interior parts, I will be using a rusty color primer to go through it first, and then I will be using a tan colored spray paint to paint it over so that it looks like tan colored leather. And for the engine, I will coat it with the rust color primer first, but I will spray it with a smaller craft light gloss blue enamel spray paint. Alright, as you can see, all the big panels and big pieces of this model car have been painted, and everything looks really nice. You can see the shine of the paint, the glossiness, and you know, just this whole thing just feels really nice. It's like a miniature art piece that you can see, you know, all the detailed pieces like this interior part. You can see the, you know, the nice seat cushions. It feels very realistic. Now what we can do is we can do all the little detailed paintings on these big parts, you know, like the transmission of the engine, some of the, you know, the inner door handles, all the interior pieces, all the silver trims, and later I will be also masking the body to add all the golden trims on the car body, and I will also be applying, you know, the golden the Firebird decal on the hood as well. Alright, let's get started. Now, the first thing I did is I super glued the seats down onto the kind of like the major interior pan. This just, you know, makes it easier to work with since these parts tend to like, you know, get around and get damaged. So I want to put the bigger pieces together first. Now, it's actually kind of hard to like paint the whole thing together without, you know, like making a mess or having area that's hard to paint, you know, unable to get paint there. So I painted the two front seats separately, and this way it's, you know, kind of like a better workflow to do it. For all the other pieces, like, it's just very simple. I use super glue. I know model glue works great, but super glue just gets the work done faster. As you can see, this dashboard looks really cool. It's really shiny. For all the interior trims, I will be using just like water-based acrylic model paint. So this is a black, I think it's like a flat black paint that I applied first, and after that I will be using a silver metallic acrylic paint to do the silver highlight. I just love to have like a black backing color for all the metallic colors first, you know, so it makes like a more realistic texture, like it gives a more realistic texture to it. Alright, as you can see, all the major interior and engine pieces have been painted and assembled. Now, I understand this model really isn't very detailed and, like, it's also not very accurate, to be honest. But, it's a really cool model and probably the only one out there, so, I think it's pretty acceptable. And to be honest, like, the result actually turns out pretty nice. Like, this looks like a really, really sweet miniature. So as you can see, yeah, the interior tab's done. I painted the gear shifter, all the pedals, and the door panels also look really nice. So what we want to do now is we can put some of the parts aside and to work on the main car body first, because that actually needs a lot of work to get the nice look we want. Now, to do the classic Trans Am golden trim line, it's actually pretty hard. So what I did first is I taped all the hood and door panels on it so that they wouldn't move, and all the body line will remain lined up with the masking tape holding them together behind. So what I have here are fine masking tapes. So these masking tapes are really high quality. They ensure that your paint won't leak through it, and they can also bend, through tight corners. These cheap 3M Scotch tape are a little too strong, and they also cannot, bend around corners. And what I love to do is to use a small one for the, the nicer masking tape for the nicer fine edges, and then use the cheaper masking tape for the bigger areas, so that it's, you're not wasting like the good material on, bigger, not very kind of useful spaces. For what we want is we will be using the gold colored hood decal for the hood. Now, I didn't put this on first because the masking tape can actually rip the decal off and then you are screwed. So, well, I really couldn't say too much about the masking part. Just kind of, be really patient and do it slowly. Grab a sharp X-Acto knife to cut the tapes off in areas that you want them to like end. And yeah, just be really careful, take your time, do it really gently, use the big cheaper tape for some of the bigger area, and yeah, it's that simple. Like, look how nice and satisfying it is to like unwrap it. It's like unwrapping your gift on Christmas Day, like, this golden trim like turned out so well. Like, this is just, it's art. Like, look at how beautiful this car body is. You can see the shine of the black metallic paint. The golden trim is right on the spot. It's just a really sweet looking model. So now what we can do is to actually apply the water slide decals, which is kind of tricky, but I'm really glad that these curvy painted lines actually showed up really well. And I'm just happy that this like 5-hour long masking process actually really paid off. Now for these water slide decals. So what are these? These are basically printed decals on like a very thin sheet of plastic, and it's bonded to this big piece of decal paper with like a water soluble glue behind the actual plastic decal. So to use it, you actually want to carefully trim it off the paper, like cut it off with a pair of scissors. And you want to soak them in water to the point that the glue becomes kind of like dissolved, and then the decal itself will slide off from the decal backing paper. So again, this is a very patience required, like it requires a lot of patience to do it properly. So again, take your time, don't stress yourself out. Like it's okay if you can finish it in one day. Just carefully grab a pair of scissors and carefully cut it off from the backing paper, and just dip it in water until it actually starts floating off the decal paper, the backing paper. Now, when it comes to applying like sheets of decal that's this big, you always want to test if it's fully separated from the backing paper or not. So as you can see, I've slightly shifted it with my fingers, and it actually worked out really well. So just put it onto the surface you want it to transfer on, and just like pull the paper out. The decal will kind of float on really smoothly and easily. Some of the older decal might give you like some hard time, so that's kind of its own thing. I really cannot provide too much help with that, but yeah, once your decal is in the right spot and you like it, grab some paper towels and just basically suck out all the water from like behind and on the decal itself, so that the glue behind the decal will have a very subtle bond with the surface it's on. It's totally okay, like for the glue itself to be water soluble. As long as you get the water out, the decal will stay on really well, just like it's been painted on. And once you get all the decals down, we can clear coat the body, seal all the decals inside, and give it a high gloss shine. Wow, look at this. This is after 5 coats of a 1K automotive clear gloss coat. So you can get this paint from like AutoZone or like O'Reilly Auto Parts as well. And as you can see, this high gloss lacquer paint really dries to a really solid, hard glass-like shine. Like this literally feels like a real car in your hand. Like you can feel the paint actually feels a little cold, and it's also really smooth. Now, what you want to do is to actually let this body air dry for a couple days so that the paint is thoroughly cured. And we will pick up in the next episode. I will go through about the final assembly of this model car and how to make all the RC components work together and make it into this really fun and really nice model, and something just really cool to show your friends that it's a really cool model car that you built yourself. Thank you so much for your view, and I wish you have a wonderful day.